Now, so let us see the other important basic concepts in polity. So we have seen the usage of the terms like state and government while discussing about the types of constitutions. So you need to understand what is state and what is government. So as a part of this polity, so we need to understand the other two important concepts like state and government. So usually we are using these two terms, state and government, as synonyms. We are using these two terms in the same meaning, but we need to understand what is the difference between state and government. At the same time, we need to understand what is the relation between these two concepts. See, state, it is a political institution. State is a political institution. State emerged as a political institution to provide services to the people. There are so many organizations and institutions existing in this society, like political institutions, social institutions, cultural, ethical, like different types of institutions, or we can say organizations or associations are there in the society. But according to father of polity, that is Aristotle, state as a political institution emerged to serve the people, and this state can continue as long as the people are surviving. So as a political institution, state emerged to serve the people. It is providing various types of services to the people. Now, there are certain essential elements to identify a state. It means every state will have 5 essential elements. In the absence of any one element, we cannot call it as a state, right? So these 5 essential elements includes the first one, population, or we can say people. So population is essential feature of a state. Without population, there is no state. We cannot imagine a state without population. A group of people must be the members of the state. So as we know, the state itself emerged to serve the people. So the existence of a state can be seen where the people are there, where the population is there. So population occupies the first place in the formation of a state or existence of a state. But how much population is required to form a state? How many people must be there in a state? So there is no any kind of limitations or any kind of fixed number to form a state. If you see the existence of city-states in ancient Greece, around 3rd to 4th century BC, the city-states they existed in the ancient Greece. So these city-states, they have a limited population and limited territory. So a small portion of area, it became an independent state. There are number of states existed in ancient Greece. Example, Athens, Sparta, Macedonia, Milind, like the different types of city-states were there. So the important features of these city-states are, they are very limited population and they have very limited territory. So only hundreds to thousands of population was there in the ancient Greek city-states. So by observing the existing city-states, another Greek philosopher called Plato. So Plato was a master of Aristotle. So Plato, he identified the existing states and their populations and their territory, and based on his observation he wrote a book called a book written by Plato was a Republic. In that book he wanted to create an ideal state. With his political knowledge acquired from his master Socrates, so he wanted to create an ideal state. He mentioned this ideal state and its features in his book Republic. He stated that the population of a state should not be more than 5040. Plato wants to restrict the population of a state with a 5040. So based on his personal observation of the existing city-states, he stated that 5040 population is enough to form a state. But another scholar called Rousseau, a popular scholar from Italy, so he stated that the population of a state should not be more than 10,000. By observing the existing nation states, it means the city states were disappeared and the place was occupied by another states called nation states. In the place of city states, nation states were emerged. So nation states are those states where a separate state was emerged with a separate nation. Right? So by observing the nation states, Rousseau stated that the population of a state must be not more than 10,000. Right? But the father of polity, Aristotle, so Aristotle stated that the number of people is not important, but the nature of the people is important. According to Aristotle, the number of people is not important, but the nature of the people is important. Why? Because he gave a popular statement on this. A good citizen can make a good state, and a bad citizen can make a bad state. It means the majority people in the state should have a good character and behavior. If majority people are identified as a good citizens, then the state can develop. If majority of the population are having bad character, or the majority people are not the good citizens or bad citizens, then the state cannot develop. So the nature of the people is important as stated by Aristotle. And he also stated on the population of a state that the population in a state should not be more than the availability of resources, or the population should not be less than the availability of resources. There must be balance between the population and the resources available in a state. So too much population is a danger, and less population is also a danger, according to Aristotle. If the population is more than the availability of resources, then that is a situation where the scarcity of resources may be happen. The people may quarrel. They may fight for getting these resources which are limited. This kind of clashes among the people in order to grab the resources, this kind of situation leads to have a anarchy, a kind of situation where there is no peaceful conditions. Less population is also a danger. According to Aristotle, less population is also create a kind of danger. Why? Because if the resources are abundantly available where the people are not sufficient to utilize these resources, naturally we can see wastage of resources may happen. Okay, it is not a dangerous situation. But if the resources are more than the population, then the neighboring countries may invade to grab these resources. The neighboring countries may try to occupy these natural resources available in the country. So if this kind of invasion takes place, it can create a kind of fear in the minds of the people. There is no peaceful conditions existing in the state. So according to Aristotle, too much population is a danger, and less population is also a danger. So the population of a state should be equal to the accessing of the resources available in the state. If you observe the present states in the world, we can identify, we can understand the size of the population is not important to form a state. Population is must, but how much population is not a condition. If you see, India became the most populous country in the world. Recently we have crossed China in terms of population. So where 145 crores of people are there in India. So the countries like India and China are having crores of population. At the same time, we can see the existence of small states with a limited population with only thousands. Vatican City, where nearly the population is 1,000. Morocco, another small state with limited population, thousands population only. So with this we can understand that the population is an essential feature of a state, but there is no fixed number that how much population is required to form the state. So this is a first essential element of state. Then coming to the second, territory or a place. So merely having population cannot make a state, but there must be a fixed territory with restricted boundaries. So for providing habitat or accommodation to these population or these people, so there must be a fixed territory or a restricted place. The people should have a permanent habitat in this restricted territory. They should be permanently settled in this territory. If you see, the people are migrating from one place to another place continuously, the people may not be recognized. They may lose their identity in the view of the world. So in order to get this kind of identity, the population or the people should have a permanent settlement. They must be the permanent residents in a fixed territory. If you observe the thing happened before 1945, the Jew community people from Israel, they settled in different parts of the world. Especially in European countries, they settled for a business purpose or employment purpose. Most of the Jew people, they migrated from their motherland Israel and settled and scattered in different parts of the European countries. But slowly the world have not identified a particular country for Jew community people, because the population migrated from their motherland and settled in different parts of the world. After realizing that we are losing our identity, then the Jew community people came back to their motherland and they settled in Israel. By the time Israel was occupied by Palestine. So from 1945 onwards, we can see clashes happening between Israel and Palestine. Because both the religious people, Palestine belongs to Muslims and Israel belongs to Christian community. So both are demanding that Israel is a motherland of them. On one side, Jews are demanding that Israel is our motherland because the birthplace of Jesus Christ, that is Bethlehem, is located in Israel. So it is a holy land. On the other side, Palestine is also demanding that it is also a sacred place for Muslims because they have constructed mosques. Masjids were constructed in Israeli land. So from 1945 onwards, so this kind of tug of war is going on between these two countries. So the UNO officially declared that Israel as a motherland of Jews only after their permanent settlement in Israel again. So with this we can understand that a community can have a permanent settlement, a group of people, they should have a permanent settlement or residences in a particular territory with restricted boundaries. Then only they can get identity, they can be recognized by the world. So territory or a restricted place is essential to form a state. This territory or place includes all the resources available within the territory, is regarded as the natural resources of the concerned state. And if any state is having a coastal region, for example, India is surrounded by sea water in three sides. So we know on the eastern side we have Bay of Bengal, on the western side we have Arabian Sea, on the southern side we have Indian Ocean. So in three directions India is surrounded with sea water. If such kind of condition is there, in order to protect the territories from any kind of foreign invasions, in order to have a kind of security to the territories of a country, there was an international agreement happened. According to this, so among this sea water, so up to 12 nautical miles distance is regarded as an integral part of the state. And whatever the resources available within the water, like petroleum, gas, diesel or aqua, any kind of resources, they will be treated as natural resources of the concerned state. And within this limit of 12 nautical miles, the state is having every authority to utilize the water or whatever the minerals or anything, resources available within the water. And any foreign ship or any kind of foreign travelers, if they want to enter into the sea water within the limits of 12 nautical miles, they have to get the permission from the concerned government. So without permission, if any foreign vehicle enter into our territorial water, so the government has a power to seize the vehicle, or they can arrest the people who are entering into our territorial water. It is a security measure taken up by all the countries which are having this kind of coastal region. So this is called as a territorial water. And above the land also, the space is treated as an integral part of the state. So it is also a security measure taken to have this kind of territorial space. So any foreign vehicle can enter into the territorial space with the proper permission from the concerned government. Without permission, if any foreign object enter into the territorial space, then as a security measure, so we can seize the vehicle or we can blast the vehicle also. So in this way, the territory or place occupy an important role to form a state as an essential element. Then you need to understand the third one, that is government. So now we can understand the difference between state and government. As I said, state is a political institution and government is also a political institution, but the government is one of the essential elements of state. The government is a machinery of the state. So government is a machinery, or it is a body of officials working for the state. Normally every state will have certain goals or objectives. Every state will have goals or objectives. Now, the government is a machinery which is working on behalf of the state to realize the goals or objectives of the state. We can say the state is a master and government is a servant. The government is working for the state. The government is working on behalf of the state, right? If you observe, we can visualize a state through the functioning and performance of this government only. It means the government is working on behalf of the state, and through the performance of this government and functioning of this government only, we can understand that this is the state with so and so objectives. If the entire world wants to identify India as a state, immediately the people of different parts of the world, they can remember the performance of the Prime Minister. Prime Minister is a real executive and he is a part of the government. Prime Minister is not the state. Prime Minister is not the part of the state. So he is a part of this government. For better understanding, you can see the three organs of government. Every government will have three important organs, right? The first important organ is legislature. Second one is executive, and third one is judiciary. Every government in the world, whatever may be the nature of the government or form of the government, we can have different types of forms of government in the world. There are like a unitary government, federal government, parliamentary government, presidential government, monarchical form of government, military government. Like different types of governments will be there, but every government will have three organs. It's a kind of division of work between these three organs. So the basic duty of legislature is legislation. Is nothing but making laws. Legislation means making laws. So law making is the duty of legislature. Only it is going to prepare the laws according to the requirements of the state. So legislature is a lawmaking body. The second organ is executive, and the basic duty of executive is execution of laws made by the legislature. It is going to implement the laws which are made by the legislature. The basic duty is implementing of laws. Then the third organ is judiciary. The basic duty of judiciary is to provide justice. It is going to provide justice to the people. So in order to provide justice, it is also empowered with a review authority. It means it is going to review the performance of legislature and executive, whether they are doing well or not. Actually, as we know, every structure in the country, every political institution has to act according to the provisions of Constitution. As a fundamental law or basic law of a state, the Constitution contains the provisions related to the functioning of every political institution and a political official. So these three organs has to perform their functions as per the provisions of the Constitution. Now here the judiciary is acting like a watchdog of constitution. It is acting like a watchdog of constitution. So the legislature as a lawmaking body, any law made by the legislature can be reviewed by the judiciary whether it is as per the constitutional provisions or not. If any law made by the legislature is against the constitutional provisions, if any law is violating the constitutional provisions, then the judiciary can declare that this law is not valid. It can be declared as null and void. It is not valid because it is against the constitution. Okay, a law made by the legislature is as per the constitutional provisions. Okay, it is okay, good. But while executing this law made by the legislature, if executive body cross its limits by violating the constitution, or if the executive body while implementing a law, if it cross its limits, then the judiciary going to interfere in the activities of executive, and it can declare that your act is not valid because it is violation of constitution or it is against the constitutional provisions. So in this way, the work is divided between these three organs. Now, the Prime Minister of India is a part of this executive. Prime Minister of India is a part of this executive. But through the functioning of this Prime Minister, the entire state of India is recognized by the world. With the performance of this Prime Minister government in India, we are going to identify by the other countries of the world. So, government is an essential feature of the state through which we can recognize the state. So, this political institution state is identified through the functioning of this government. So, the government is running, the government is working or functioning on behalf of the state. Now, we can understand the relation and difference between these two. On one side, we can say that both the state and government are not one and the same, because government is one of the elements, essential elements of state. On the other side, we can understand that we cannot separate both the government and state, because a state can be viewed with the performance of government. So both cannot be separated or divided. At the same time, both cannot be combined as one and the same. So we are using the terms state and government with the same meaning. So there is no wrong in it to use these two terms as synonyms. Nothing is wrong here, because the government is a part of state. Without state, there is no government. Without government, there is no identity to a state. So in this way, we can understand the difference between state and government and the relation between these two, right? Then, coming to the fourth essential element is sovereignty. Another important or essential element of state is sovereignty. So, sovereignty, the term was taken from a Latin word superanus. A Latin word. From this Latin word superanus, this English word sovereignty was emerged. So the meaning of superanus is supreme power. Sovereignty means supreme power. So the supreme power is one of the essential elements of the state. This supreme power is divided into two types. So the first one is internal sovereignty, and second one, external sovereignty. Internal sovereignty means within the boundaries of the country. Within the boundaries of the country. So, all the individuals and all the institutions must accept this supreme power. From the highest position, that is President of India, to a common man at the lowest position, everybody must accept and obey this supreme power internally. Internally in the sense, within the boundaries of the country. No exception is given to anybody. All the individuals must abide by this sovereign power within the country. Even the foreigners who are residing in the country for a temporary period, they must also accept the supreme authority of the state. The foreigners who are residing for a temporary period, because the foreigners may come to India as a tourist, as a pilgrim, as a business person, as a student, right? Different reasons are there where the people from foreign countries can come and stay here for a temporary period. As long as they stay here as a foreigners or aliens, they must accept the supreme power of the state. No exception is given to anybody. As long as they remain in India, they should act as per the rules and regulations prescribed by the government in India. They should not act according to the rules of their countries. They should respect our sovereign power. And all the institutions in India, they must accept the supreme authority. No exception is given to any institution. Even the foreign companies who are having their branches in India. Nowadays, the multinational companies are emerging in the world. They may have different types of branches throughout the world. So, any foreign company can have this kind of opportunity to establish their branch in India based on the terms and conditions laid down in India. So, these foreign companies also, they can operate in India, but they also act or function according to the conditions laid down in India. They must perform their functions without violating the laws made by the government in India. So, this is called as internal sovereignty. Within the boundaries, every individual and every institution must accept this supreme power, that is sovereign power of the state. The next one is external sovereignty. External means outside of the boundaries. It doesn't mean that we can exercise our authority over the people or the states outside of India. We cannot give a direction to the people of other countries. But what is this external sovereignty means? While maintaining relations with all foreign countries and neighboring countries, we are not going to surrender ourselves to any foreign authority. It means we have our own strategy. We have our own policy, that is foreign policy. We are not surrendering ourselves to any foreign authority or foreign companies' authorities. It means the countries which are having this kind of a status, like the richest state or the country which is acting as a world police now, right? The countries may impose certain types of restrictions, but we are not ready to surrender ourselves. If you surrender to any foreign authority, we can lose this external sovereignty. For example, United Nations organization is there. India is a member of this UNO. So any kind of policies made by UNO in order to protect the peace of the world, different types of conditions may be designed by the UNO to control the countries from the threat of war. So as a member, India may accept the policies of UNO or it may reject. We have our own strategy in order to maintain these relations with other foreign companies or international organizations. We are not surrendering or we are not forced to accept the terms and conditions laid down by any foreign or international company or organization. It is stated that some of the critics, they used to criticize that India is surrendering its sovereign power to the World Bank. We are getting financial assistance from the World Bank. But before sanctioning the amount, the World Bank may keep some restrictions or the conditions. But we are not forced to accept the conditions laid down by World Bank or IMF, International Monetary Fund. Here the choice is given to India to accept or it may reject the conditions laid down by these international organizations. Right? So this kind of accepting or rejecting any kind of proposal or a condition laid down by any foreign company or foreign organization. So it depends on the decision taken by the governments. So in this way, so India, it is having this external sovereignty in order to maintain relations with the foreign countries. So previously, America brought a kind of agreement called CTBT, Comprehensive Test Ban Treaty. The topmost countries in the world, they have developed nuclear technology and they don't want other countries to develop this nuclear technology. If every country is having this nuclear bomb technology, so it creates a kind of tension among the countries that leads to have this kind of another world war. Already we have experienced this kind of damage happened during the Second World War by using this kind of atom bomb by USA on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. So in order to avoid such kind of world wars in future, in order to reduce the tensions between the countries, so America wants to brought the CTBT agreement, Comprehensive Test Ban Treaty. And it forced the countries of the world to sign on this agreement. But when it comes to India, India simply rejected to sign on this agreement. India made a proposal that if you want me to sign on this agreement, first you have to destroy the nuclear technology developed by all the topmost countries in the world. By the time the countries like America, China, Britain, Germany, so the countries, they developed this nuclear technology, but they are forcing the other countries not to have this kind of nuclear technology. So India rejected the proposal and it made a clarity that every country should destroy this nuclear technology. Then only I am going to sign on this agreement. When India rejected to sign on this CTBT agreement, Pakistan also rejected to sign because India is not signing on the agreement. So external sovereignty is a kind of authority where the country cannot subjugate or surrender to any foreign authority. It should have its own policy and strategy while dealing with the foreign countries. This is called as external sovereign power. So, sovereignty as an important or essential element of the state. This sovereign power can be exercised by the government because the government is working on behalf of the state. So, this power can be exercised by the government practically. Okay. Then the last one is international recognition. So nowadays, no country is self-sufficient. No state can survive on its own because all the natural resources are not available in all parts of the world equally. Every state is depending on others. The needs and demands of the people makes the governments or the states to have a kind of relation with others in order to get the support from others. So if we want to get a kind of support from any other countries or international organizations, so we should have an identity. Internationally, we should be recognized by the world. Then only the states or the international organization can come forward to extend their helping hand. So this international recognition is also an essential element of a state, and it was added to this list of essential elements in recent years because of the dependency of the states. So these are the 5 essential elements required to form a state. Now we can easily understand the difference between state and government and what is sovereign power, what is international recognition. Okay, so the absence of any one element cannot make the state. We cannot call it as a state in the absence of any one element of these 5. For example, before 1947, if you observe, so India, we have the population in India and we have a fixed territory. We have the government, but not our government. It is a British government. So the lack of this third element. Then the sovereign power is not in our hands. It is in the British hands. So this fourth element is also not available before 1947. Then what is the international identity or recognition given to India before 1947? So India was not identified as an independent state. India was not called as an India, but it was recognized by the world as a British colony. Our country was viewed by the world as a British colony, not as an India, because of lack of these 2 elements. Only after 1947, after getting independence, and when Indian Constitution came into force in 1950, then the international recognition to India as an independent state. So these are the basic things required to understand what is state, what is government, what is power, sovereign power, like that. Okay.